Hello all, this is Dswank, and I am going to attempt to do a fairly short video talking about offensive and defensive variations in Space Engineers, and my thoughts on them. Some of them are fairly basic. Offensive, you've got your standard weapon set. You've got your Gatling gun, you've got your warhead, you've got your rocket launcher, your interior turret, and your rocket turret. The three turrets, you can let the AI run. This requires you to shoot at them. This requires some thinking. This is the one that requires the most engineering to use effectively. Excuse me. You can create a rocket that uses sensors similar to you can look on Wasted Space's channel. He has a tutorial on how to create a drone that follows you. You use that same principle and you can create a rocket that eventually in sensor range will be able to target things. And you can put the warheads on it, and you can have sensors on there that arm the warheads and make things go boom. Let's see. You can set them up as mines. You can set them up as a drone that you ram, kamikaze drone into the enemy ship, or you can actually build a kamikaze ship and ram them in there. So that's kind of the limitation to vanilla offense, with the exception of the gravity systems that you can use to create a gravity flung rock, which is actually fairly effective, but it is somewhat cumbersome. You can't target particularly well, and you run the risk of, if things don't come out just right, tearing your entire gun apart when things go wrong. So there is an issue there. Let's see. Now, defensive in vanilla. Well, obviously you have your light and heavy armor as your most simplistic. Light armor doesn't take much, heavy armor takes more. You can layer them, either same or different, and you can layer them at however you want. I tend to use light armor, heavy armor, and then I put something like the walk front, well, catwalk, thank you, brain, give me right words, as the as an ablative armor. Now, there's other things you can do with layering. You can put spaced armor. What that does is that, because of the way rockets work, they'll hit and the damage is transferred through because of their explosion, through and damages. So if you, say, had just heavy armor and then light armor, or heavy armor, space, light armor, the light armor after the space wouldn't take damage after one rocket shot, but if you had, or even two, as long as it doesn't pierce the heavy armor, the light armor after a space won't have damage. However, if you have, say, 3 layers of armor, 1 heavy and 2 light, the back of the light armor after 3 spaces, same distance, is damaged because of the way damage works on the grid. So, spaced armor does pretty good. Another thing you can do is, say, put a tire in this space. That does work fairly well. Now, that's kind of it for... Actually, there's one more passive defense that you can do, and that's for anything that is a gravimetric-based attack. It uses, and sorry about that, I punched the mouse, the gravity generators. Spherical works the best for the defense, because you create it, and you tell it to push away in a sphere around your ship. Have 3 or 4 of them together, and you're pushing away at 3 or 4 Gs, and stones that are coming in gravimetric powered rockets, anything like that, will be pushed back. You just have to have enough gravity to override whatever is pushing it towards you. And it works. I mean, you don't even have to have something that's like absolute stop. You just have to redirect it away from the incoming. And that's another passive defense. It's probably the most interesting and engineering-wise defense where you actually have to think it through, because if you have gravity on your ship, you have to have your ship's gravity actually work and not interfere with this. So that you have to think about that. Now you've got reactive defense, which really in vanilla, the only reactive defense, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, is to have welders lined up, powered, and fueled with their components and turned on. And if you get damage, they weld the damage back up. And it works sometimes if you're lucky. Sometimes it doesn't. And then you've got your active defense, which, honestly, the best active defense in vanilla is the interior turret. Because the rounds are cheap, and you can tell the interior turret target missiles. And if you have a handful of them, they can shoot the missiles out of the sky. Missiles don't work, well, most of them don't work particularly well because they don't lead the target particularly well. Rockets fire, and they fire at where the rocket was, but when the rocket's moving, incoming, they miss. You shoot behind the rocket every time. So rockets are pretty much offensive only. And Gatlings are not particularly good at active defense, because their rounds cost a lot, they don't fire fast enough, and they don't lead particularly well. They're better than they used to be. I will say that. They are better than they used to be. Now, that's vanilla. Let's look at some options for modded. Well, offensive, there's always a bigger gun. That's pretty much all it is big guns. You've got battleship-style cannons and things like that, which are fairly simplistic. But you used to have the guided missile mod, but that stopped working. The guy got tired of having to update it every week after Keen fixed their or did an update. So I can understand it. Hopefully, once the game comes out, the guided missile mod comes back, because that was awesome. Now, let's see. Let's go with passive first. Of course, there's the modded armors and things like that, but that's kind of... I covered the basics of modded armors down there, too. That holds true. You've got shields, and I'm going to refer to this style. If you have never messed with it before, this style just puts a health buffer over the entire grid it's attached to. And that grid, you have to burn through that health buffer before the grid takes damage. I refer to that as an structural integrity shield. This is a bubble shield. And as you can see, there's a bubble around it. You can project... I have a video on it more in depth, but it projects a bubble shield around the ship. Kind of like Star Trek. And on fear of going off on a tangent real quick, I will discuss the Star Wars mod, or Star Wars shields real quick. Star Wars shields have... their shield emitter looks kind of like this. And they will project a shield above the emitter that's a certain radius. And you have multiple of those emitters. And they overlap and intersect. And you can take out a single shield emitter and just have a gap in the shield. And that's how the surface hugging shields in Star Wars worked pre-Disney. I don't know now. So, okay, now you have. So that's the shields are kind of the only new passive defense in town. And I don't see why you don't work with layers. The best defense is multiple systems working together, so there's not one end-all be-all. Now, the Nanite factory has updated since the last time I used it. They've added modules and some other things, and you can take a look at their website, or if you install the mod and type in Nanite, it'll pop up information on how the Nanite factory works. But I'm not going into detail there. Suffice to say, it is a welder that is not limited to the location that it's put in. So you could have multiple Nanite factories up and running and repairing your ship as you're fighting. But it has the same limitations that the welders have. You have to have the raw resources already assembled into components for that system to work. So there's that, and you've got the if your ship takes a full block of damage, you can do the projector defense system. Now you've got these for your active defense. These are my examples that I'm using. Actually, I should have one more out. Let me grab that real quick. Okay. So, we've got energy weapon. This mod works. It doesn't use any ammunition. It just uses energy developed. And because of it, it's better at things like debris interception, and which debris interception, I mean stones being flung at you and components being flung at you. So it's better at intercepting those than, say, this, because that just requires energy. This burns through resources. Now, this one is better than vanilla at being an active defense against missiles. It fires faster, fires continuously longer, and the only ones that I think that are better active defense are the ISM Mayfly and Paladin. No, that's not it. I can't remember but they're little R2D2 units. That R2D2, that's nicknamed their Gatling cannon attached to radar. Yeah, they're really good at shooting incoming rockets. And then you've got Bofors, which would be probably fantastic against small ships. And I find them exactly fantastic against small ships. Then you have this, which is good at medium ships. Medium ships are large grid ships that are fairly small. That's how I describe them. And then you've got your flak. Now, if you've watched Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined, you know why flak is good. Because it blows up. Now, let me take control real quick. See those explosions out there? Those explosions have a blast radius effect similar to rockets. So, if you intercepted a rocket with it, it's more likely to take it out than shooting it down with another rocket. So, there's that. Now, the biggest thing with all of these defenses is setting them up correctly. So you've got them working together. The 300mm side cannon, that's the gun inside the small, and I can't think of the correct term for them. The side turret. I'll just call it that. There's some things that you would use it to target. I wouldn't target stations. I wouldn't tell any of these weapons to target stations, because stations are not going to attack you. And if you want to target stations, you target them with your primary guns. Target characters. No, I wouldn't do that for the 300 because it's too big of a shot. Large ships, definitely. Small ships, definitely, because you can have small ships gone wild. You got target missiles, no. Moving objects, no. Meteors, no. Okay, there we go. And this one's set up for how I would use it. Now the Beaufort. Excuse me, Beaufort. Now, Beaufort, if I was doing this, I would not have it target meteors. Moving objects, no. Missiles, no. Small ships, yes. Large ships, no. Characters, yes. Stations, no. Neutrals, yes. Because you could still have enemies hiding as neutrals. Unless your server doesn't allow that. Vulcan, however, I would turn off meteors, honestly. Moving objects, yes. Missiles, yes. Small ships, yes. And neutrals on, yeah. Okay. The flak turret, I would have it target meteors. No, not meteors. Not meteors. Moving objects, no. Missiles, yes. Small ships, yes. Characters, yeah. Stations, no. Neutrals, yeah. So that was pretty good. Laser turret, that's the one I would have on meteors, on moving objects, on missiles, and nothing else. I wouldn't have it target even fighters. Because... And I wouldn't have that many of them. I might turn it on to target characters as well. Because honestly... it's kind of not doing anything if they're... I mean, that gives you some additional character defense. But that would be my gradient of attacks. And then I would have the large ship. For these, the 900mm cannons, or the big ship cannons in MechSpecs mods. I would use those as my assault, my primary guns. The ones that I'd use to shoot other large ships. And everything else is a form of defense to protect the ship I'm on. So, yeah, that's kind of all I was going to say for this. If you enjoyed this, go ahead, hit like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Tell me if this is a type of video you would like to see me continue in the future. And I've got a few other video concepts like this I'd like to do. But, yeah. So, with that said, I will see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.